minutes, someone will be diagnosed with one gynecological cancer.
And that's the grim reality. September is the annual Gynecological Cancer Awareness Month, and the goal is to create awareness about cancers that generally affect women.
It also seeks to inform women of the need to prevent and detect early cancers that start in the woman's reproductive system, like cancer of the cervix, vagina, vulva, ovaries, and uterus, with a view to reducing deaths from the diseases.
With me in the studio is Dr. Adeola Olaita, consultant and oncologist at the University College London Hospital. Thank you so much for joining us. It's interesting to know that September is a month to create awareness about cancer, but tell us, how aware are Nigerians when it comes to the issue of cancer? Because a lot of persons just think when you talk cancer, you talk women and leave the male folk out of the whole cancer theme. So, but tell us, how aware is the Nigerian populace?
I think, generally speaking, awareness of cancer is poor, particularly when we look at people who are less well educated. I think some of the charities have done a lot of work to raise awareness. For example, breast cancer has now become something that people recognise. But the cancers of the reproductive tract, which you just mentioned, cancer of the ovaries, the womb, the cervix, which is the neck of the womb, the vulva and the vagina, are very little known about. And there's very poor awareness of the symptoms. And people tend to explain away the symptoms rather than seek help. And so one of our challenges, first of all, is to create awareness, and the second is to make people understand that cancer is not a death sentence and it's not inevitable. Some gynecological cancers are fully preventable, and all gynecological cancers are curable if they're detected early enough. So we need an investment in making people know that they should seek help at a point where they can still be cured of cancer.
You mentioned that the challenge is creating awareness, and you also said that charity organizations are actually doing a lot to create that awareness. But where does the government come in all this? And of course, the most popular one is the breast cancer when it comes to the woman. Where does the government come in creating that awareness that, of course, not a death sentence, early detection is very important, you know, so where does the government come in all this?
What we need from the government is the creation of strategies for prevention and early detection. So you mentioned breast cancer as the commonest, but cervical cancer, cancer of the neck of the womb, is the second commonest cancer in women. And it is, you're more likely to die if you get cervical cancer than breast cancer because of the poor awareness. And what we need is an investment in making people understand it, a vaccination program to prevent, and a screening program to detect early, to protect women. Because I think it's a tragedy if women die of a potentially preventable disease. And so I think the government needs to come in. NGOs and private facilities can only do so much.
Okay, now let's look at breast cancer and cervical cancer. Look at the trend that you've seen, and talk to us about the trend that you've seen among women in Nigeria, how they, you know, take away the fact that the disease is actually there, and just maybe because of religion or culture. Where does religion and culture, you know, come in all this? Because a lot of persons will argue that, a lot of persons will pray and say we don't need to go to the hospital when it comes to treating cancer.
Well, I mean, I think obviously that's a mistake. You know, they say heaven helps those who help themselves. So by all means pray, but seek help from the people who can cure you. And I think if anybody tells you that you can be cured by any means other than the conventional, then you're being deceived. I think that there is very much a taboo around talking about cancer. And I think that's because of this fear that cancer is always fatal. But if you make people understand that cancer is curable, and therefore you need to arm yourself with knowledge, I think it cuts through a lot of the superstition and the fear of cancer. I mean, if you think where we were with, for example, tuberculosis 100 years ago, if you had TB, you would die. Now, if you have TB, you take antibiotics and you're cured. And cancer very much is there now with certain cancers. So I think if people understand that it's curable, then the fear goes away, and then they can talk about it, and they can seek help. If somebody has malaria, they go and get treatment for malaria. If you have cancer, get treatment for cancer.
Now, looking at cancer treatment in Nigeria, how equipped is the health sector?
Very poorly equipped. The public health sector is very poorly equipped. A lot of cancers present late for all the reasons that we've spoken about, and if they present late, then surgery is not an option, and they need radiotherapy, and radiotherapy machines are not always available.
Adiola Olaito, a doctor from the University College London Hospital. Thank you so much for your time.
You're very welcome. Thank you.
Moving away from that now, every 5 minutes someone will be diagnosed with gynecological cancer, and that's the grim reality.
September is the annual Gynecological Cancer Awareness Month, and the goal is to create awareness about cancers that generally affect women. It also seeks to inform women of the need to prevent and detect early cancers that start in a woman's reproductive system, like cancers of the cervix, vagina, vulval, ovaries, and uterus, with a view to reducing deaths from the diseases.
Well, with me in the studio is Dr. Adiola Olaito, consultant gynecological oncologist at the University College London Hospital. It's nice to have you join me right now.
Thank you.
If we have to, when it comes to the issue of cancer, it's quite popular, the word, you know, and all of that. But if we get into the detail of it, especially focusing on the cancer here that affect reproductive organs and cells and so on, what is really at the core of it?
Well, there are 5 gynecological cancers. Cancer of the ovaries, the womb, which is also known as the uterus, the cervix, the vagina, and the vulva. They're all different and they have different causes. I think what may be helpful is if we talk about cancer of the cervix, which is the commonest cancer in women in this country. It's a potentially preventable cancer, and in developed countries it has become a really rare cancer. For example, Australia is on course to eradicate cervical cancer completely, and the reason they can do this is we know what causes it and we know how to prevent it. And I think what we need to do in Nigeria is focus on strategies for prevention and early detection and reduce the appallingly high death rates of a cancer that is potentially preventable.
Yeah, talking about the issue of prevention, like they say prevention is better than cure.
Absolutely.
What can anyone do, before you talk about the government intervention here and there, what can one do on a daily basis as a young person, as an individual, to prevent these cancers?
So there are 2 strategies to prevent cervical cancer. One is vaccination against the high-risk human papilloma virus, which is best given to very young children before their sexual debut. So mothers need to be aware that they can vaccinate their girls, and boys for that matter, from the age of 9, and ideally between the ages of 9 and 13. That reduces the risk very significantly.
Do we have that vaccination in the country?
The vaccination is in the country. It's not available as part of the public vaccination system, but it can be obtained privately. Okay. It can also, if people have concerns or they want to find out more about it, they can search on the Cancer Aware Nigerian website, which is canceraware.org.ng. Okay. The other thing is screening. So if you're vaccinated, when you get to the age of 25 or after first sexual activity, you can go and be screened. And what screening involves is checking the cervix for cells that cause no symptoms, but if left undetected and untreated can put women at risk of cervical cancer. So that sort of health-seeking behaviour we don't have. We normally go to the doctor if there's something wrong with us. And understanding that you should go for prevention. Get the screen. The vast majority of women will have a normal screen. If it's abnormal, you can be treated. A simple treatment that doesn't affect fertility, preserves the uterus, and protects you from cancer.
So the website anyone can check for those, especially where to get vaccination and all of that, is www.canceraware.org.ng.
Correct,
okay.
yeah.
Canceraware.org.ng. Anyone can check that and get help if you need help. Thank you very much, Dr. Adiola Olaito, for coming on the program.
Thank you.
That every 5 minutes, someone will be diagnosed with one gynecological cancer, and that's the grim reality.
Now, September is the annual Gynecological Cancer Awareness Month. The goal is to create awareness about cancers that generally affect women.
It also seeks to inform women of the need to prevent and detect early cancers that start in a woman's reproductive system, like cancers of the cervix, vagina, vulva, ovaries, and uterus, with a view to reducing deaths from the diseases. Now, I have with me in the studio a Dr. Adiola Olaito, who is a consultant gynecological oncologist at University College London Hospital. Thank you so much for your time. Thank you for joining us. It's interesting to know that these diseases, or it's saddening or disheartening to know that these diseases, it seems to be a silent killer, because people do not go to detect or go to the hospital for checkups? Because the trend or the culture here is that it's when you're sick, you go to the hospital.
Indeed, yes. I mean, it's important to stress that all gynecological cancers, some of them are preventable and they're all curable if caught early enough. And the reason why people die of disease is usually because they present at a late stage because of a lack of awareness of the important symptoms or preventive strategies that they could take to protect themselves.
So apart from awareness, of course, we cannot overemphasize the need for awareness. Apart from awareness, what other steps can be taken to ensure that, especially for the women, a lot of detection or of the early stages of cancer? Apart from awareness, what else can the woman do?
Well, women need to understand the symptoms of gynecological cancers. Now, there are 5 cancers, and each one is slightly different in the way that it presents. But generally speaking, any abnormal bleeding should be reported. So bleeding after sex, bleeding between periods, bleeding after the menopause, they could be indicative of a serious problem. The vast majority of women who have these symptoms will not have cancer, but a proportion will. And it's important that they don't ignore it. Seek help early, get the appropriate tests. And if you do have a cancer and you present early, you can be treated with a good expectation of recovery.
Looking at Lagos, which has, one of the highest population, in Nigeria, how aware is the woman populace when it comes to cancer?
Well, I don't think it's spoken about sufficiently. I think there have been successful campaigns about breast cancer, so there is more of an awareness of breast cancer, and this is the reason why charities such as Cancer Aware Nigeria are focusing on gynecological cancers in this Gynecological Cancer Awareness Month. So people, first of all, know of the existence. I learned yesterday from doctors here that a lot of people don't know about cervical cancer until they're diagnosed with a disease. They don't even know of its existence. And yet it's an important one to know about because of all the gynecological cancers, this one is preventable. It's preventable by vaccinating young children against the causative agent, which is a high-risk human papillomavirus, and for going for screening. And screening is not to detect cancer, it's to protect women from cancer by picking up cells which are abnormal. They cause no symptoms, but if left undetected and untreated, can put women at risk of cancer. Detection, treatment protects them from cancer.
How accessible is the treatment?
Treatment
and vaccination? Vaccination
is available at the moment only in the private sector. If women wish to find out about vaccination, they should go on the Cancer Aware website, canceraware.org.ng. In addition, Cancer Aware has a campaign to try and make the vaccination accessible to all women. So again, going on the website and supporting the campaign, because we've shown in Nigeria that we're very good at delivering vaccinations. If we can make sure that every girl and boy is vaccinated against the high-risk human papillomavirus, that will go a long way to protecting another generation from getting this cancer.
Just for, for persons to be aware, can you just tell us the website, canceraware.org?
Canceraware.org.ng.
Hopefully that will help, reduce the number of cancer patients that we have in Nigeria. Dr. Adeola Olaito, thank you so much for your time on the show.
Thank you.